have. Okay, for those of you who are watching on YouTube as well as Facebook Live, just know that we have Dr. Andrew Saul today, so fasten your seatbelt because we're going to learn and grow together. And Dr. Saul, I know we can't see you today, but I hope you're dancing in your chair.
In a manner of speaking, yes.
It seems like your best ain't good. If you're in need of
Time to dance.
where I'll be right here, right here. And when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here, waiting for you.
Lady, always turn to the Lillian McDermott Show. Reach out to Lillian is on the web at whenyouneedafriend.com. Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian McDermott.
Hello, my listening friend. It's so nice we can meet each other on the air on this beautiful, best day ever. And for those of you who have been listening to the show for the last 7.5 years, welcome back. Or if you just stumbled upon me yesterday, again, welcome back. But if this is the first time that you're listening to my voice and you're listening to the Lillian McDermott radio show, please know that I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go to when you need a friend. And it is my commitment to provide alternative ways to heal. And it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friends, you can watch us live on Facebook Live at Lillian's radio show, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Now, today, I am just really excited because it's very rare that you get to meet somebody and the first day, they have completely changed your life upside down. And it was the documentary called Food Matters. In 2013, that's when I saw the documentary Food Matters featuring orthomolecular scientist, Dr. Andrew Saul. And I immediately invited him to be on the show during our interview. Oh, and he accepted. Let me just put it that way. He accepted. And that was back in 2013. And he during a break, because he's not an MD and he's not a DO, but he is a orthomolecular scientist. This is food as medicine. And that's what I fell in love with Dr. Andrew Saul. And so he said during the break, you know, Lily, I can help you. And you know, there is a website called dryourself.com, which I just want you to know about. And it shares this information. Now, this is called informed choice. Nobody's making you do anything, but if you choose to do this, just know that you are giving your body whatever it needs. You can become curious about your body. So within a short period of time, I got off all my medication for asthma. And it's been since 2013. And I take vitamin C, and I take lobelia. I do different things to figure out what my body needs. So I said, you know what, Dr. Andrew Saul, this helped me so much. And every time he's been on the air, he's been on with me maybe 5 or 6 times, he shares something that is so helpful. And I ask that you be curious about it and look into it for yourself, talk to your doctor, and decide what you would like to do. And I said, I would love for us to discuss the 7 steps, because if you go to Dr. Andrew Saul or andrewsaul.com, then you can download, this is a free gift for those of you who would like, it's called 7 Steps to Better Health. And I believe that that choice that I made in 2013 has made my life even better. So let me tell you about Dr. Andrew Saul. He has over 40 years experience in natural health education. His world famous free access educational website called dryourself.com has been, today is the 20th anniversary, and today is Dr. Andrew Saul's birthday, has been peer-reviewed and the largest non-commercial natural health resource. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Dr. Andrew Saul is here to do just that. Welcome, Dr. Saul, to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show. Oh, I cannot hear Dr. Saul. Did I do something? Dr. Saul, if you're there.
Oh, yes, right
There
here.
you are.
I
there
was
you are.
just basking in what a lovely introduction that was.
Okay, so share a little bit about your background and what led you down this path.
You know, I think the one thing that led me down this path more than anything was having children.
Mm.
It's such a common thing. You know, we think that, I'm a parent now, and my firstborn was born when I was only 22. My second child at 24. In those days, that didn't seem very young, but looking back now, it kind of seems very young indeed.
Yes, yes.
With every passing year, in fact, it seems younger and younger as I get older and older. But the thing that put me into the natural healing arena is necessity. When a child is placed in your care, literally in your arms, tiny little thing with those tiny little fingernails, it is an experience that I think can motivate pretty much anybody to realize I have to know what to do. Mm-hmm. And I started to see that what I had an inkling of in school turned out to be actually true, that medical science is incomplete. Doctors know what they know, but they don't know what they don't know. And again, that's a truism, but when it's your baby's life at stake, it becomes real. When you go to the doctor and all they do is give them a cursory check and then stick a needle in their arm, and that is all they do, you realize that you are going to have to do more than you thought. So when I saw how things were going and how the child, our first child, was reacting badly, not real badly, but a little bit badly to the first immunization, the second immunization.
Okay, hold that thought. And we're going to continue our conversation worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com, off the air at Lillian's radio show on Facebook Live. And we're going to continue our conversation. When we return, we'll be right here waiting for you. Sorry, Dr. Saul. I didn't even realize that when music had started. So for those of you who are watching on Facebook Live, I would love to see where you're from. Let us know, share where you're from, and because I can't see you unless you make a comment. So welcome for being on today, and you're in for a treat. Dr. Saul, you know, they say that to whom much is given, much is expected. And it's interesting that you would talk about your children as that gift. Many parents, and I've seen this more and more, unfortunately, they don't know what they don't know. And it doesn't sound like they're looking for more answers. And like children are being raised on Doritos and Coke.
Yes, well, that is sometimes a figure of speech, but there are times when it's the absolute truth.
No, I am being honest. Doritos and Coke. I've seen a 2-year-old put a Dorito in their mouth for the first time and have orange junk all over their face. And then the moment the parent takes that bag away from them, they go into this tantrum. They're already addicted.
Yeah, my mentor, Dr. Abram Hoffer, called sugar the original addiction. Mm. We wrote a book called The Vitamin Cure for Alcoholism. And we also talk about other addictions, including hard drugs and cigarettes. And Dr. Hoffer, who was a psychiatrist of considerable repute, he was actually the director of psychiatric research for the province of Saskatchewan. Dr. Hoffer was not only a medical doctor, but also a PhD, board-certified psychiatrist, had lots of experience, and we actually did 4 books together. Yeah. That's how you learn. You know, that was really an incredibly valuable time that I had with him. So I learned from Dr. Hoffer that, first in his writings and then in person, that nutrition isn't just a good idea for children, it's absolutely essential, particularly when they're sick. So if you want to prevent illness and if you want to cure illness, you have to use everything you've got available to you. And that means far more than a shot in the arm or a medication. Yeah. I mentioned earlier that I saw that doctors just wanted to give my children vaccinations. And after the first 2 attempts we had at that, we decided, their mother and I decided that we just can't do this anymore.
Yeah, and here we go. We're about to get started on the air.
Once again, here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott radio show, where we always learn from one another. And today's teacher is Dr. Andrew Saul. And you can hear us on the air and off the air at Lillian's radio show on Facebook Live, but at whenyounneedafriend.com if you want to join us there as well. And the radio. We're on the radio live, and I'm loving all my listeners and followers in Jacksonville and all over the world. So today, I'm bringing you an incredible treat, Dr. Andrew Saul, who is taking time off of his birthday to be able to share. He's not on video, but we can hear his lovely voice on and off the air. He's just so generous. And happy birthday, Dr. Saul, by the way.
Well, thank you very much, Lillian. I appreciate that.
And happy birthday to dryourself.com.
Yes,
20 years, 20 years young.
Yeah. I started the website in 1999, and the idea that occurred to me was, well, I'm going to have a website. Now, what kind of website would I want to go to? And I decided to put up the kind of website that I would like to see. So the first thing was it had to be non-commercial.
Yeah.
And I don't have any brand of vitamins. I don't back any brand. I don't recommend any brand. I don't show for any company. I have absolutely no financial connection with the health products industry, none whatsoever.
Yeah.
Now that passed my first test. The second thing was I wanted it peer reviewed. I wanted to have good research, lots of references, and to have the whole thing looked at by doctors who actually use nutrition. What a concept. Let's go to the people who actually are curing patients, not the reporter, not the newscaster, not the politician, not the drug company representative, not the spokesperson for a medical association, and not someone that just likes to comment on the internet because they can. Let's go to people that actually know what they're doing. Years ago, when I was a boy, my father said to me, Andrew, if you really want to know something, go to the organ grinder, not the monkey.
I like that.
So I just go to the doctors that are doing it. And we at dryourself.com have put up an enormous searchable website. Searchable is important because it's so big. And anyone can go there. It's free of charge, free access. There's no advertising. Although I mention my books there, I do not even sell my own books at my own website. And finally, I wanted something that would be readable, fun to read, and written without the puffery that you sometimes see in medical literature. So Dr. Yourself actually is fun. A lot of people say they like my sense of humor.
Yep.
I think it's appealing. You might think it's appalling. But the fact of the matter is we can have some fun with this. It's okay. You know?
Yes, absolutely. It is. You know what? It needs to be. And I say this all the time. People can shut down, and I would have been that person that would have said, you know, what I'm hearing is insane. If what you're hearing today doesn't make sense to you, move on. It's okay. Until the student is ready, the teacher will not appear, and vice versa. And so I was ready. I don't know if I told you this, Dr. Saul, but prior to you saying, you know, Lily, you can do something about your asthma, and I can help you. I can share with you how to do so. At that moment, it was informed choice that you were able to share this information. But here's the thing that I don't know if I told you this. I was on a drug called Xolair that was supposed to be a miracle drug. And after 9 years, I get this EOB, and the EOB says, which is a explanation of benefits, it said chemotherapy. And I got upset with that. I said, what the heck? So I called my allergist and I'm like, you guys are using the wrong code. I am not on chemotherapy. And it really rubbed me the wrong way. And I don't get upset about things right off the bat. And that really upset me because I was just diving into this holistic and the natural side of all things. And they said, you know, that we understand you're not on chemotherapy, but that's the closest drug or code, and at the time it was ICD-9 code that would explain what we're doing with you. And then comes the teacher, Dr. Andrew Saul. And when you said that to me, I was ready to get off the medication. And I not only got off Xolair, but in between I was doing, Pulmicort, Asthmacort, Advair, nebulizer treatment, rescue inhalers. But with the Xolair, I had, it was more managed. And so since then, Dr. Saul, I have been using vitamin C, and just recently I was introduced to an herb called lobelia that I've been using for any time that I'm, like throughout the day as well. And so with that, I want to say thank you for giving us information that then we can make an informed choice decision.
Well, that's a very good point, a whole lot of very good points. And it teaches everybody, because you and I and those that have done nutritional therapy are not doing it because it might work. We don't have time for that. We're doing it because it does work. When my children were sick at 2 a.m, okay, fine. You can call the doctor's office and that'll take a while.
Sure.
You can make it into an emergency, or heaven forbid, go to the hospital.
Yes.
All those things take time, and they're traumatic for the children. Let's keep that one in mind.
Mm-hmm.
You have a sick kid, the last thing you need to do is pack him into the car and take him to a waiting room and wait for a while,
Sure.
sometimes a long while, for someone who probably doesn't know anything more about nutrition than you do. In fact, I would argue that only a modest amount of attention to learning about nutrition will teach you more than almost any medical doctor you're likely to reach, certainly at 2 a.m.
Yes.
So doing it yourself is safer for the child. It's more user-friendly for the child. It's better for the parents, and it works. So it's safe and it works, and you've been told not to do it. There's no end of articles, whether it's the internet or the newspaper, magazines, or blabber on the television, constantly telling you that vitamins are of no value, vitamins are actually dangerous, and you should not use them. Well, that's just not true. You use vitamin C in high doses as an antihistamine. Mm-hmm. And the fact is, people with allergies or asthma notice huge improvements by taking high doses of C. Mm-hmm. High doses of vitamin C is not an extra couple of glasses of orange juice, as you know.
Yes.
But extra vitamin C is taking enough C to be symptom-free, whatever the amount might be. Now, I came up with that jingle decades ago, and I'm still using it. You can tattoo it on your wrist if you like, because it's more important than many medical alert bracelets.
Yes.
Taking enough vitamin C to be symptom-free is indicated in a non-technical way by if you have loose stool or not. If you're taking too much C, you start to have gas, flatulence, rumble in the tummy, gurgling, loose stool. Linus Pauling specifically used the phrase loose stool. That does not mean diarrhea. Nobody wants diarrhea. Diarrhea is a problem, particularly in children. Don't do that. And it's so easy because you just increase the C until the symptoms are gone, but not so much as causes loose stool. I experimented with this out of necessity. My daughter had a terrible cough, and she had been coughing literally all night. Now, I was about ready to go to the pediatrician, not because I really believed the pediatrician would be that much help, but because I had nothing else that I could do. Mm-hmm. Until I realized, yes, I do, actually. I had seen Dr. Robert Cathcart III, a medical doctor, orthopedic surgeon, on television. He was on the Donahue show. And that was a big show many years ago.
Yeah, I remember it.
And yeah, well, you and I are, we're going to remember a lot of things a long time ago, particularly me. And I'm sharing this because the key here is that Donahue had his panel of experts, and one of them was Cathcart. And he asked questions to the audience and said there's so much wisdom in his audience, which is true up to a point. Yeah. But his audience was not made up of vitamin C specialists. Finally, right at the end of the show, somebody actually asked Dr. Cathcart, who'd been pretty quiet. They asked him a question, and he started talking about high doses of vitamin C to saturation, enough to not have loose stool, but enough to get well, tens of thousands of milligrams a day, or even over 100,000 milligrams a day. Well, all of a sudden, the studio went nuts. There were questions from all directions. They were out of time. During the credits, people were asking Dr. Cathcart questions. And I thought to myself, I haven't actually done what the doctor said. And his MD is probably just as good as anybody else's, maybe a little bit better, because he seems to have experience as well. So I started giving my 4-year-old daughter 4,000 milligrams of vitamin C every half hour. Mm-hmm. Now, this is a 4-year-old kid. This is not a big person. The RDA for adults is not even 100 milligrams a day.
75, I think, or something like that.
Right. Women get to take less. Isn't that reassuring?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Now there's gender bias, if there ever was any. Smokers are allowed an extra 30 milligrams or so, even though one cigarette destroys 25 milligrams of C. So if you smoke 2 cigarettes a day and get the RDA of C, you're scorbutic. Well, back to my daughter. So I start giving her vitamin C up to saturation, and it took a few hours, but all of a sudden, it seemed to me, remember, the kid had been coughing for a long, long time, and we were really concerned. We were on this. We were worried, but we were not frantic. We were desperate, but we were not stupid. Mm-hmm. And you have to keep your cool at times like that. It's hard to do. Parents mm-hmm. know. Mm-hmm. And when she got on the potty, her cough was gone. I noticed her cough went away right at the time when she had loose stool. And I thought, gee, this Dr. Cathcart really knows what he's talking about. And I expected the cough to come back, so I just kept giving her C, but not so much to cause her loose stool. Mm-hmm. And by golly, it worked. Now that night, her cough came back in the middle of the night, gave her a teaspoon of vitamin C powder and a rinse to mm-hmm. take the excess off the teeth, which you always do. Mm-hmm. And everybody slept. Now there's a gift from God. Yeah. So we have here a very simple, practical way to deal with viral illness, bacterial illness, with problems of stress, problems of wound healing. Vitamin C is an antihistamine, and it is an antitoxin. So when you have allergies, it's a custom-made therapy. I mean, it's absolutely perfect. Vitamin C is cheaper and safer than any drug on the market, and I mean any drug. There is no drug that can come close to vitamin C safety record.
And you know what, Dr. Saul, when I look at television, we see all these commercials about, you know, try this drug, try that drug. And as you know, my registered service mark is you can take a pill, you can take responsibility. And so, you know, then when you see these beautiful images of people having fun, and all of a sudden you start hearing, you know, it might cause blindness, or call your doctor if you start bleeding through your rectum, and, you know, all this stuff, and it could cause death. But with vitamin C, if you just want to try it, the worst case scenario is diarrhea. So I would take diarrhea over death any day. Those are the two Ds that we don't want to, the two opposite. But Dr. Saul, when I was looking at your website, I know that you're giving a free gift. So people go to andrewsaul.com with the 7 keys. So the 7 tips to be a healthier life. So with that in mind, I want to start with tip number 1, which is, you know, the sugar, and not to cut out sugar. And I do want to, I know we only have like a minute left. Nope, the music has started. So here we go. What we'll do is, for those of you who are watching, if you have any questions, you can call 407-373-5959, or you can join the conversation off the air on Facebook Live at Lillian's radio show. And we're going to continue our conversation with Dr. Andrew Saul when we return worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. Sorry, Dr. Saul. I saw that we had about 1 minute, but it was really going back into the music starting. So with that in mind, our first one is sugar, cutting out sugar. And we're talking here abstinence of sugar. And you were talking before we went on the air and about the damage of sugar. You talked about smoking. Let's talk about sugar before we go back on.
All right. Sugar is a minus food. Sugar will make any medical condition worse. Sugar is something that if you stop using it, you will feel better. Now, the trick is, if you feel crummy and you have sugar, you'll also feel better from having the sugar for a while. Well, you will. And
yes, you're right.
We have an instinct to have sweet fruit. When we go out hunter-gathering, we're going to be attracted to the fruits that are ripe, the fruits that are sweet, the fruits that are high nutrient. The food industry fools you by coloring things to make them look fresh and ripe, which they're not. They'll paint oranges, for instance. They literally are. Oranges are spray painted. And you have a fraud with artificial flavors as well as artificial colors. Our sweet instinct is being perverted because we're just getting too much of it. There's just no end to that sugar craving. If you have sugar, you'll feel great for the next 20, 30 minutes or so. You'll feel wonderful, on top of the world. But then, as the body kicks out the insulin, the blood sugar crashes. And as the blood sugar crashes, your mood crashes. And now you've got a problem. For hours, probably, possibly for days in some sensitive people. Now, the way out of this roller coaster can be to take more B complex vitamins, B as in Bob, take more chromium, to have more fiber, to have your dessert after the meal so it's kind of buffered and muted by the other food that you're going to be digesting, as opposed to just a candy bar and an empty stomach, which is going to give you trouble. But the best way to do it is to reduce as much as you can. Reduce your sugar intake as much as you can. If you cut it in half, you're going to feel 3 times as good. If you cut it down by 90%, you're going to feel 1,000,000 times better.
Yeah.
The only way you're going to do this is to experience it for yourself. And that's a tough sell. The beauty of cutting out sugar is that it costs you nothing. And I mean nothing. You actually save money.
That's right. That's right. Dr. Saul, before we go back on the air, and Andre, keep me honest here. We have a question. Thank you for tuning in, Diane. She would like tips on autoimmune, such as tips for autoimmune, such as Hashimoto's. And so maybe we can talk about that real quick before we go back on the air.
All right. Remember, I'm not a physician. I'm certainly not an endocrinologist. The thing that we have to do, first of all, is to research this. And I'm going to ask you to do exactly that. And that's not dodging your question, it's honoring your question. There's just so much to know about Hashimoto's and other similar issues. You can start at dryourself.com. You can search the internet. You'll find conventional sites that will tell you this. And then if you look a little bit more, you're going to find natural alternatives. I know people that have improved their diet and they have helped so many conditions that nobody even thought would be helped. People who do more vegetable juicing, for instance. People who take a good multivitamin 3 times a day, once with every meal, not once a day, but once a meal. Extra vitamin E, extra vitamin D, losing weight, exercising more. I would go down that list, and usually people have 1 of those, 2 of those, 3 of those things they're not doing. So you got to get rid of the weight if you're overweight. You have to exercise, and nobody wants to. You need to take a look at your life and make your life a happier life. You need to take your multivitamins with every meal. You need to take your vitamin C in far more quantity than you ever thought. You need your vitamin D, and you need to see an endocrinologist. You probably are doing that.
Yeah, and Dr. Saul, fluoridation in the water can hurt our thyroid as well. And that's a totally different topic. And we're about to go on the air. And you hear the music. Here we go. So when we talk about sugar, Dr. Saul, I'm gonna talk about my show first, and then we'll start talking about the 7 keys.
McDermott, or leave her a voicemail at 407-373-5959. Once again, here's Lillian.
Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott radio show, where you can hear us worldwide at whenyounneedafriend.com. I'm your host, Lillian McDermott, and it is my goal to learn from everyone that's on my show. And we have the experts on the show and the people who have dealt with certain things that you maybe become an expert because you dealt with it. And so today's teacher is Dr. Andrew Saul, and you can find him at dryourself.com. You can find him at andrewsaul.com. You can also find him in 2 different documentaries, which is Food Matters, which for those of you who think that food doesn't matter, this is great. Document, the student is ready, the teacher appears. And the other one is that vitamin movie. I believe that's the name of it. So that vitamin guy or that vitamin movie. But so here we go. We're learning the 7 steps to better health, which is downloadable gift if you subscribe to Dr. Andrew Saul's website. And so we're talking about doing whatever it takes. You heard me say you can take a pill, you can take responsibility. I am not against the pill. But before taking the pill, what can you do? We had a question from Diane on Facebook Live asking about tips on healing autoimmune conditions. And so the one thing that we can do, what can we do to reduce it, whether it's reducing medication or whatever, what can make an improvement in our health? And for me, with Dr. Saul, was switching my asthma medication and substituting it. But I needed to make that choice for myself through informed decisions. It's with facts on what to do. And then you make your decision on what works best for you, not one size fits all. So with that in mind, I want to encourage you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com. I also have downloadable gifts, 90-day challenge to self-love ebook, along with other gifts that you get. And so while you're there, I ask that you follow me and subscribe or like me on Facebook, social media, and subscribe on YouTube, subscribe to the channels, all sorts of ways to stay connected. And so while you're there, I want to encourage you to go check out my sponsors. My on-the-air sponsor is Liberty Health Share. Off the air, of course, you can go to whenyouneedafriend.com and check out First Alternative Care and Keep Me Safe Organics, which you get discounts when you check Keep Me Safe Organics. 10% off, by the way. And so with that in mind, we start this conversation of what is best for my body. Not every single person that takes the pill is going to have the same reaction. That's why there's so many side effects. But with vitamins and supplements, you can be sure that it's not going to kill you. And so maybe we can talk about that off the air. But with Dr. Andrew Saul, I want to encourage that we talk about this 7 steps to healthier life, which maybe be looking at what you're eating or what's eating you. So there's so many different ways to be healthy. And if you have any questions today, you can go on my comments at Facebook Live at Lillian's radio show, or you can go to your phone, 407-373-5959, and you can call or text me. So Dr. Saul, thank you so much for your gift in 2013 for me, which was to learn, to make a decision to get off my medication. But prior to that, what can I do to heal my body or make my symptoms better and go away? And so you came up with 7 steps to better health. And I thought was so curious about that. And so the first thing was sugar. And you talked about it off the air, and I've had many doctors say that sugar is a gateway to heroin. What do you want to say about that?
Well, it's a gateway to everything. The fact is, as Dr. Abram Hoffer, my mentor, said, sugar is the original addiction from which the other ones stem. Now, most people know they shouldn't do sugar. They do it anyway. The fact is, it's a very strong pull. Well, that's what addictions are. But you can break that. I taught college courses in 2 state penitentiaries, one for women, a max, and one for men, a medium. And in my class, I had inmates who were really interested in finding a way out. And of course, prisoners in general, of course, want to get out, but the ones that I had wanted to have a way out in terms of making their life better. Mm-hmm. And they did just what Lillian is saying, which they just decided, no, wait a minute, I got today, I can get my act together, I can make my life better, and they did. Mm-hmm. And nutritionally, I suggested to them, even though you're in the slammer, take a good multivitamin every meal. And they said, well, we can't get a good multivitamin, we can get a crummy one at the commissary. And I said, okay, fine, get that. And cut out sugar. And the other thing I mentioned to them was, can you get wheat germ at the commissary? And they said, yep. I said, okay, put wheat germ in everything. So there's this one guy, he was huge. I mean, he had to duck to come in under the door, and he had to turn sideways to get in through the door. And he was a big guy. And I remember after class, he said to me one day, you know, can I talk to you for a minute? I said, yeah, sure you can. By the way, this passage is in that vitamin movie, and when you see it, it's kind of a funny little story when you get to watch my expressions. But for now, just visualize for yourself this really big guy. And he said, you know, I've been doing what you said. And I thought, yes. He said, I've been cutting out sugar and putting wheat germ and everything, and I've been taking those multivitamins. And I just wanted to tell you, I feel more clear. Mm. And I said, okay, fine. And then he bent down, turned aside, and got out the door somehow. And I thought to myself, what would be the long-term benefits to society of having inmates when they are in jail, and more importantly, when they leave jail and come back to your community, if they all feel more clear?
Yeah.
So here's a case in point, another case in point. Cutting out sugar saves you money, saves your health. You can do it.
Very good. Very good. Okay. So the second step you have in your handout that you're giving away is to increase niacin and vitamin C.
Well, we've already talked about vitamin C.
Mm-hmm.
Increasing your vitamin C is easy to do. You do it gradually. You take enough C to be symptom-free, whatever the amount might be. If you feel great, you're taking the right amount of C. But if you take the amount of vitamin C you think you should need, now you're making the RDA mistake. Now you're making the government's mistake. They're telling you, well, you only need this much vitamin C. Okay, fine. Well, I'll bet the Treasury Department will try to tell you that all you need is minimum wage. So this is nutritional communism, and I don't think it's a good idea. I think nutritional
communism. Oh my gosh, I need to absorb that, but keep going.
Well, I'm a product of the Cold War. I remember the Cuban Missile Crisis, and I'm keen on this. My father, by the way, calmed me down. He said, Andrew, there'll never be a war with the Russians. And I said, why? He said, because they're just like us. They want school for their children. They want a car. They want a house. They want a TV. They want to be healthy and happy. They're just like us. And I never worried, and never have since, because they're just like us. Years later, I heard the Dalai Lama say that. Whenever you meet someone, say to yourself, they're just like me.
Yes.
Well, you're just like me. We're all just like me. I'm just like you. We're all in this together. And the fact of the matter is, we can work our way through this, but not if we refuse to try stuff. Now, going back to the autoimmune question, many people, when they hear us talk about vitamins being good, will hear a doctor saying that if you have an autoimmune issue, vitamins are actually bad because they'll make your immune system even more able to fight against itself. Now, that is not really the case. Dr. Frederick Robert Corner, a board-certified chest specialist down in Reidsville, North Carolina, used to treat autoimmune diseases with very high doses of vitamins. His name was Corner, Frederick Robert Corner, and the more you read about his work, the more you'll realize that high-dose vitamins can actually help, paradoxically perhaps, counterintuitively perhaps. High-dose vitamins can actually help autoimmune issues, including multiple sclerosis and similar things.
Yes.
Now with niacin, if you go out taking niacin, you're going to have a flush. So the first thing you want to do is, if you're going to take niacin, start very, very small. And at my website, I have a paper that a lot of people read on how to use niacin. You need to recognize that niacin causes a flush. I love the flush.
I do too.
But a lot of people don't. And there are two ways to deal with this. The first is to gradually increase the niacin, starting very small. And I mean like 25, 50 milligrams a meal, very small, and work up to it. Now, I said that about vitamin C. Now I'm saying it about niacin, because the body likes stuff like that. You grow gradually. Hopefully you wake up in the morning gradually. And we have to allow the body time to get used to change. We don't have to go in there great guns. We have time. And niacin is increased gradually. The other way you can do it, if you don't want to deal with that, is to simply take niacinamide. Niacinamide is what's in most vitamin supplements anyway, because manufacturers don't want people calling up and returning the product and getting upset with them. Yes. So niacinamide does not cause a flush at all. And that is the other way to avoid it. So that would be the next step.
Yes. And the benefits of niacin for people that are looking at, why should I use niacin?
Well, the biggest one is you're going to chill out. You're not going to be as stressed. If you are stricken with anxiety and panic attacks, you're going to find a tremendous improvement. When you take niacinamide actually works directly on the benzodiazepine receptors in the body. Now, benzodiazepines are tranquilizers. Xanax, I think, is an example of that. When you are taking niacinamide, it actually reduces anxiety. It also relieves depression. Now, how can it do both? Well, because the body's smart and it likes good nutrition. Yeah. Bad nutrition never cured anything.
Okay, with that in mind, we're going to continue our conversation off the air. So if you want to tune in to what Dr. Saul has to say, go to facebook.com/@Lillian's Lillian's radio show, at Lillian's radio show. And we're going to continue our conversation worldwide at whenyounneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. Okay, so I love the story, and I want to encourage all of you to go to listen to some of Dr. Saul's. He tells a story of a young lady who had bipolar or schizophrenia, and she took a whole bottle of Niacin, and the voices went away. So tune into
that's
that
Dr.
one.
Abraham Hoffer's story.
Oh, that's his story. Well, I heard you say it though. So
Well, I'm quoting him.
Okay,
He's a psychiatrist.
Okay, yes. Okay, so I want to encourage people to know that if you're experiencing depression and anxiety and all of that, niacin helps with that. So with the third step is exercise, and we can talk about exercise now, or you can answer Diane's question, what to look for in vitamin C. She's seen different mixtures, and I know that I take vitamin C that's non-GMO. So would you like to share a little bit about the importance of a vitamin C?
Yeah, with vitamin C and with niacin, the more you know, the better off you are. So knowing we're not going to be able to give you a thorough answer on these things, I want to send you back to dryourself.com.
Yes, right.
The articles are there. And also, you might want to go to my Facebook page.
Yes.
I'm known as the Mega Vitamin Man.
Is that what okay, so I'm going to put that right. Keep talking. I'm going to type that on.
And we will become better prepared to do this the more we know. But the short answer to your question is this. The cheapest vitamin C works just fine. Most medical research on vitamin C, most clinical work with vitamin C has used the cheapest form of vitamin C, and that's ascorbic acid. Some people will tell you that that won't work, that it's dangerous. The fact is it's not, because most animals make their own vitamin C. We can't. And guess what animals make? What they make is ascorbic acid. So ascorbic acid is vitamin C. If you don't believe that, you need to read more. It is acidic. It is less acidic than lemon juice. It is less acidic than vinegar. It is a weak acid. When you take vitamin C powder, I think you should rinse your teeth when you're done with some water. That's what I did with my kids. You can also take a little bit of sodium bicarbonate or baking soda, and you can put a little bit of that in with your vitamin C, and that will make it effervesce, and it will also neutralize the acidity. Any vitamin C that you want to take is fine with me. If you have lots of money, believe me, you can find expensive vitamin Cs. Go nuts. If you've got the cash, fine. I don't care how much you take. I care that you take enough. And how do we know you have enough? All together now. You take enough C to be symptom-free, whatever the amount might be. The form is a matter of comfort and budget. Yes. So you just work it in. But if somebody tells you that, oh, vitamin C comes from China, well, I would like to tell you that in the 1960s, China invented the process by which vitamin C is now made commercially, and they license it to us. So China actually came up with the process of making cheap ascorbic acid with fewer chemicals, a lower environmental pollution footprint, and greater safety. How do you like that, folks? Amazing. Now, as far as GMO goes, I'm opposed to GMOs. But you also need to know that you cannot GMO an atom. And vitamin C is carbon and hydrogen and oxygen. It's C6H8O6. And GMO has nothing to do with the physics of atoms.
Interesting. Okay, we're about to, this is our last segment, Dr. Saul. And here we go. Let's try to get all, welcome back to the Lillian McDermott radio show, where we always learn and grow together. Today's teacher is Dr. Andrew Saul. You can go to dryourself.com if you want to learn more. If you have a condition and you want to learn a little bit more about that condition, or a lot more about that condition, and what vitamins and supplements you could consider, because again, this is information, informed choice. And when you have all the data that tells you where if he's getting the information, now you can make a decision, as opposed to someone who's like a Google expert, and everybody on YouTube is an expert, and everybody on the internet is an expert. And that's why I bring the experts on my show. And so you can go to dryourself.com, you can go to andrewsaul.com, you can watch the documentaries Food Matters or That Vitamin Movie, and you can start learning and growing along and watch the show as well. Dr. Saul has been on my show many times. So if you go to whenyounneedafriend.com, or just enter his name and it'll come up all the way. So we've talked about the 7 steps to better health. The first one is abstain from sugar. The second one is increase niacin and vitamin C. The third is exercise. And Dr. Saul, we pretty much know we need to exercise. Is there anything else that we need to talk about when it comes to exercise that you'd like to share?
I'd like to say this. Jack LaLanne, probably the exercise guy of the 20th century,
Yes.
Would work out every morning for an hour and a half or so. I think he did half an hour in the gym and an hour in the pool, maybe 2 hours. So he gets up at 5 in the morning to work out for an hour and a half every morning, maybe 2 hours every single morning. And finally, a reporter asked him the question that I wanted to ask. And that was, Jack, do you like doing that exercise? And he said, no, but I love the results.
Yeah.
That's it. Next question.
Okay, I love that. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's go to the fourth, which is no junk. And I think you made a comment about that earlier, but let's solidify it.
Okay, this is another money-saving step. You're going to save your health and you're going to have money left over. So if you're complaining, I don't want to buy the vitamin C and all those vitamins. Well, all you got to do is cut out sugar and cut out junk food. And I'm telling you, that will carry it. When my son was 17, he did a quick calculation and he found that by the lifestyle we had followed, such as not eating meat, for example, they had eggs and they had cheese and they had yogurt, but no meat. By just not doing that, our family of 4 had saved the price in 17 years of our house.
Yes, I read that in your downloadable that we're giving away. Dr. Saul is giving away if you go to andrewsaul.com, 7 steps to better health. Yes, I read that. And that's amazing that, all the money that we spend on junk. Yeah.
And Abram Hoffer gave me the perfect model of how you present this.
Yes.
When he talked to children, he would lean over to the kids with ADHD or whatever their issue is, depression or anxiety or whatever, even psychosis and schizophrenia. Dr. Hoffer would lean over to the child and he'd say, no junk. Now, Abram told me there wasn't one kid ever who did not know what that meant. So cutting out junk food comes right from Abram Hoffer, MD, PhD, one of the great psychiatrists, and my personal guide through all of this. And I'm very grateful to this day for Dr. Hoffer and the other physicians that I have learned from. I'm just passing this over to you.
I love it.
I'm not smart enough to make this stuff up. So I'm going to tell you what doctors do that want cured patients. And when people object to vitamins, I say, wait a minute. What part of making people well don't you like?
That's right. Okay, so let's move on to number 5. Number 5 is go for salad bar meals every time.
Oh, yeah. It's hard to find a good salad bar. When you're traveling, though, look for the places that have them. And you're going to find, with a little bit of time on the internet, you're going to find that there are restaurants and even chains that have salad bars. This is a very good way to get more vitamins and minerals through your food. And you have fruits and vegetables, and especially things like beans, rice, the good foods, the raw sprouts, the fresh lettuce, all this stuff you can get at a salad bar. Now, if you want to tell me that it's not ideal, I will agree with you. Okay, fine. Maybe it's not organic. Okay, fine. Maybe it's GMO. Yeah. But don't use that as an excuse to go get a burger and tell me you're doing better. Any port in a storm, you do the best you can. When we used to travel, we took our sprouting jars with us. And you can do that if you're a real nut. If you're doing a lot of juicing and you're traveling, okay, fine, take canned juice. Is it as good as fresh and raw? Of course not. But is it better than soda? Yes. You need to constantly make the least bad choice.
Yes.
I used to say that if I were a deer in the middle of a meadow and I was surrounded by a ring of fire. Now I'm a deer, I'm surrounded by a ring of fire, about 30-foot diameter ring of fire, all around me. What would I do? Now I can't just stand there and I've got to get out, but I'm surrounded by a ring of fire. What do I do? And the answer is I would jump where the flames were lowest.
Yes.
And if you can make these choices and get your kids to do that, you're following the first rule of medical school. First, do no harm. And the second rule of being a doctor is everything that I can do for the good of the patient. And that's all we need to fix medical care in this country. So you do what works. And the fact is these steps are annoying. They are simple, but they are not easy. We don't want to cut out sugar. We don't want to exercise. Well, poor baby. You want to buy a box and get in it? I mean, who do you want to make happy? You or a funeral director?
Yes. And you know what, I was thinking about that. I wrote that down as you were talking. It's like the idea is, well, everybody dies. We've got to die from something. And I remember saying that myself at one time in my life. But here's the question that I've changed and reframed that question is, but how do we want to live? So many people, I'm in my mid 50s, and so I want to live. I want to live a healthy life. And so these steps are very simple, and they're going to be as hard as we give them, the mindset of. And so, to me, I'd rather, yes, we're going to die, but how do I want to live while I'm alive? That's the question. So then the next, let's go to 6, because I want to see, this is my goal, that we're going to get through these 7 steps. Number 6 is vegetable juicing. A little bit more about that.
Yeah, you've heard about it, and I don't like infomercials any more than anybody else does, but in the main, they're right. Fresh vegetable juices are good for you, and it does not matter one whit what juicer you get. You get the one you'll use. Mm-hmm. The juicer you use is right for you. The exercise you will do is right for you. The vitamin C that you will take enough of is the right vitamin C for you. The supplements you can afford that get the job done are the right ones for you. Remember, I have no financial connection with anybody who makes a juicer or a vitamin. I don't have my own vitamins. Somebody said, hey, you could have Mega Vitamin Man multiples. Okay, yeah. Fine. I'm not going to do that because I think it would take my credibility down. And I don't think you should be shilled to. I don't think that's what I would want, and I'm not going to do it to you.
Yes.
So what you do here is you simply get a juicer. Maybe you'll find one at the garage sale. A lot of people buy them. Not everybody uses them.
That's right.
If you own one, dust the thing off and just juice anything you can eat raw. If you can eat it raw, you can eat it through a juicer. Why juice? Number 1, you have better absorption. And number 2, you will increase the quantity because you're not going to sit down and eat 5 pounds of carrots. I know I wouldn't, but I can put that through a juicer and get 1.5 quarts of carrot juice and scarf that down. That's our official word in our family. Scarf that down in just a few moments. So vegetable juicing is the power move. It is the perfect diet. Try it.
Very good. Very good. And the last one is habits. Bad habits. Let's get rid of it. And we only have less than a minute. Dr. Saul, what would you like to say about habits?
Well, Mark Twain described it really well. There was an old lady who was at death's door, and her doctor came and said, well, you got to give up drinking. And she said, doctor, I've never touched a drop of liquor in my life. And he said, well, you got to quit smoking. And she said, well, I've never smoked. He said, well, then you got to quit cussing. And she said, my dear sir, I've never said a foul word. And Mark Twain said, well, that was her problem. She'd neglected her habits. She was like a sinking ship with no freight to throw overboard, said Twain. Okay, you know what your bad habits are. I'm not your conscience. My mother used to say, I can't follow you around to make sure you do the right thing. Well, neither can I. Yeah. You have to use your own judgment. You know what's got to go. Come on, let's not mess with this at all. You know what's wrong, drop it.
Okay, Dr. Saul, love you, and I'm so grateful. Maybe we can have a few minutes after the show, but please remember that we're always in choice. Make the choice that's best for you. Please remember, I'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyounneedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Very good, Dr. Saul. We got through, can you believe we got through the 7 steps to healthier life?
How about that?
Wait. So here we go. We do know what we are, our habits. And I just was on a show I had shared with you prior to meeting with you this morning that they wanted me to talk about how to get rid of our vices. And so basically what I said was, that we really need to sit with what are those vices. We really know what they are, but what do we want? And I love the 7. I talked about you on Awaken Atlanta this morning, which I was being interviewed by Tim and Shannon. So the thing is, how do you feel that vitamins help with getting off of these habits? So will vitamin supplementation help you reduce the anxiety to want to do these habits that are hurting us? Do you have a position on that? Did I lose Dr. Saul?
You said it very well. You asked the question and you had the answer. And if you can ask a good question, you're usually well on your way to the answer.
Okay.
So that's why we wrote the vitamin cure for alcoholism and orthomolecular control of addictions. So that's what you do. After all, why not? Why not try nutrition?
Yeah. Very good. Very good, Dr. Saul. And so for those of you who are watching, I put in the vitamin movie. So on facebook.com/at Lillian's radio show or Lillian's radio show. Thank you so much for watching today. If you guys have any questions, I will forward them to Dr. Saul. It looks like I have more comments here, but I'm not seeing them. So Dr. Saul, thank you so much for coming out on your birthday. And I hope that you have a wonderful day planned. Are you still drinking carrot juice every day? I just have to ask.
That was funny. Are you still drinking carrot juice?
I didn't mean to put a comma there.
Yeah, that was funny. That was kind of a Groucho Marx thing. What I can tell you is when the weather is warm, I really like juicing. But when it's cold, and I'm in Rochester, New York, which is another way of saying Alaska, I prefer to have things like cooked winter squash, the orange squash, cooked kale, and all kinds of other things that are good for you. You know, cooking is not a bad thing. It's just fresh is even better.
Yeah.
Well, if you live in the northern climates, thank heaven for supermarkets and food processors, because we can get frozen good quality food. Okay, it may not be perfect. If you can afford organic, go and get it. But a whole lot of people can't afford organic. And if they go back and say, well, I guess I'll just eat at McNothing's, and that's not the best choice. Your best choice is to do the best you can with your budget. And if you really want to save money, you plant a garden. Now, I put up winter squash downstairs, shelf after shelf of winter squash, the same with kale, frozen kale in packets. I had a 15 cubic foot freezer, about 2/3 full of kale, and this stuff is good for you. And the same with the squash. That orange vegetable is good for you. These are inexpensive ways. Anybody, if I can, you can. Anybody can grow butternut squash or Hubbard squash and kale and lettuce and tomatoes. They grow themselves. Green beans, cucumbers. These are easy things to grow. And that's how you can really save money. And you want organic? That's how you get organic, because you do it yourself. You can't do it yourself? Get out your wallet. If you can afford to buy organic, do it. If you can't afford to buy organic, do the best you can. And if you're still complaining, have a garden. And if you're complaining about that, something's wrong.
Very good. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Saul, for being on the show today. And, you know, with all the obstacles with the internet and all that, that you are able to come on the show today and be a breath of fresh air, just like you were with me in 2013, where you planted a seed in me. And that seed has grown to what the show is today. So thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Well, it's a real pleasure. I welcome everyone to this new opportunity, because if you're sick of sickness, you're not sick anymore. The Chinese said that, not me. A lot of good things have come out of China.
I love it when you say it. Thank you so much, Dr. Saul, and thank you for watching today, whether you're watching on Facebook Live or later on once we upload the show on YouTube, on my YouTube channel. I want you to share this information. Help people learn what they don't know. Just like you know, you can, and fill in the blank. And you can go to dryourself.com. You can go to Andrew Saul and get the 7 steps and read some of the things that Dr. Andrew Saul shared today on the show. So thank you very much. So I'm going to stop the video stream on Facebook Live. So say goodbye, Dr. Saul. If you're not muted already, here we go. So.
Have a very good day, everybody. Remember, you can just say no to drugs, but you got to say yes to something else. That yes should be nutrition.
That's great. That's great. Thank you so much, Dr. Saul.